What's the point of having countless books and libraries whose titles could hardly be read through in a lifetime? The learner is not taught but burdened by the sheer volume, and it's better to plant the seeds of a few authors than to be scattered about by many. Caring more about quantity rather than quality. This was one of the mistakes that I made when I first started reading books. And you see, I wanted to share this lesson that I learned with you so that hopefully you can learn from my mistake. You see, when I first started reading books, I remember it was very exciting. I was very excited, oh, I'm learning new stuff and all of that. But you see, I was just reading through the book and not really considering what was I reading. I was just reading pages after pages after pages. I was just reading to get to the other book, to get to the other page. You see, reading without really digesting it and contemplating it. And what was the result of that? Well, this was the result. You see, a bunch of books that I have no idea what they are about. I read all of these books, but I barely remember some ideas from them. Now you see, for example, this one, I have no idea what this is about. No idea. I read all of it. I think I read all of it, or at least half of it. But I know absolutely nothing sticked in my mind. I don't remember anything from it. Also these, the chain paradox, all this stuff. So I do remember some of them, but you see, I read out of ego. That was the thing. I read because, ooh, I'm reading and I'm, improving, I'm learning all of this stuff. And I would ask other people, oh, have you read this book? Have you read this book? As if the number of books that you read, means something or determine how, knowledgeable you are or how wise you are. See, I was reading out of ego, inflating my ego, you see, thinking that I was, oh, such a great person because I'm reading, I read all of these books and I'm reading so fast and all of that, but it didn't mean anything. You see, I was playing this game of one-upmanship. You see, oh, have you read this book? Have you heard about that book? Trying to one-up people around me. You see, everyone is playing this game of one-upmanship. You see, it's everywhere in all sorts of relationships. You see, there's all these subtle little things that we do to one-up the people around us. And it's also in religion, you see, oh, that we are the more tolerable religion, or, we interpret this better than the other religion, and all sorts of that. We're more inclusive. It's everywhere, this game of one-upmanship. Very funny. So you see, I was reading out of ego. This was one of the mistakes also. And I also made another mistake, which I'll talk about later in the video. You see, I'm not gonna give it all away. I got to keep you watching, get that watch time. By the way, my name is Nago, and I make videos about stuff I'm interested in, philosophy, lessons that I'm learning, and I also make videos about climbing. So hopefully you enjoy the content that I'm making. And I see also another reason that I think that I don't really remember anything from these books. Well, first, one of the reasons is that when I was reading these books, I don't think that I was that interested in them. Because you see, if you're actually interested in something and reading about that, you'll remember that much more than if when you're reading about some random stuff in school that you don't care at all about. Do you remember that after reading that? Of course not, because you don't care about it. See, for example, one of the first books that I read was, I think, the 48 Laws of Power. I actually didn't read it through all the way. I don't even remember why. I think I got bored of it or something like that. But it is a great book. But you see, the reason why I was reading it is not because I actually enjoyed it. I did enjoy it somewhat. But I just, I thought that this book will give me some special powers, you see, to understand humans and manipulate them and understand them and all sorts of that. I'm trying to, you see, reading again out of ego. So I think that was one of the reasons that I wasn't following my curiosity, which is one of the most important things when reading books, to follow your curiosity, I think. And another reason, I think, is that I didn't really use that information that I read. Because I just read it, yeah, that's cool, and just went on in my day. The third thing, and I think that this was one of the important ones, is that I didn't think it through. See, when I read it, I didn't contemplate about it. I didn't connect it with other ideas. I didn't really think about it. Like, do I actually agree with this? Does this contradict other things that I read about, other things that I believe? Just putting the book down and just thinking a little bit. Not just, getting to the next sentence, getting to the next page, but really thinking about the thing that I read right now. That was also a mistake that I made. You see, you could do these if you want to remember more what you read. You see, following your curiosity, actually thinking about the things that you're reading, putting the book down and just sitting there for like a minute and really thinking about what you read, connecting it with other ideas. And also, you see, another very great thing if you want to remember something and to actually know if you understood it is to teach it to someone else, explain it to someone else. That's when you really realize if you know the topic that you're talking about or not. Because the other person, if they're a good listener, they will ask you like some very detailed question. Okay, what about this? Why that though? Why that? What about this though? So explaining it to someone is great if you want to remember what you read. So you can learn from my mistake and not get in your own way with your ego, and also prioritize quality over quantity. You see, not getting deeply into some great books instead of skimming through a bunch of mediocre books. But you see, there are advantages to both kind of readings. Because you see, how do you find great books if you don't skim through some books? Of course, you can take some recommendations from people that you trust, but still, you don't find out if that book is actually great until you read it. So you see, there are advantages to both sides, and you don't have to really listen to me. I'm just sharing my opinion and what worked for me. So you see, the reason I think that reading through great books deeply is better than skimming. But firstly, it will stick better. You will remember it better and you will learn more from it, because you see just how it has happened to me with all of those books that I read. I've skimmed through them. I didn't really go into them deeply and I don't remember anything from them. But the books that I'm reading deeply, I remember much more from them compared to those books. For example, I'm reading the book The Way of Zen by Alan Watts, and I have been reading it for a long time now. I'm about more than halfway through it, but I'm reading it for a long time. Let me just get the book. Yeah, as you can see, I'm about halfway, and it's a great book. I recommend it if you're interested about stuff like this. And you see, the thing is that I've been reading this book for how long, man? Like months. I mean, not months, but for a pretty long time. But you see, also because I've been getting out of the habit of reading recently. But you see, reading through it deeply, I have learned probably more from half of this book than from these 3 books combined. And look at how thick they are. I have learned more from half of this book than 3 of these combined. So that's what I'm really talking about. And it will stick more, it will stick better. But the thing is filtering through the mediocre books, the good books, from the great books. That's the hard thing. There's another very important reason I think that it's great to dive deep into great books is because the amount of time the author put into that book and the effort that was put into that book. Because let's just take videos for example. How long does it take me to make one of these videos, or a YouTuber to make one of these, educational videos? Maybe a couple of days, a week, or something like that. As your human style, maybe it takes a week or 2 weeks to put together one of those podcasts. Now, how long does it take to write a book and publish it and all of that? Well, it could take, a couple of months, years. But how long do people put into great books? You see, great books that outlast the writer, outlast the author, and live on after their death. Those kind of books take years to write. Years. Like, there are some books that probably took like 10 years, 5 years to write. I mean, just think about how much the author must have reconsidered that book. While writing it for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, one book, or even more. You see, this is why I think that it's much better to dive deep into that knowledge, writing it for 5 years. I mean, rather than skimming through a bunch of mediocre books that maybe the authors didn't really put that much effort into, and maybe he was caring more about the profit rather than actually, writing a great book. You see, reading in this way, your shelves might be emptier, your bookshelves, but your knowledge will be deeper. Your knowledge will be much more full. But of course, you don't have to listen to me yet again. Actually, as a side note, don't just take what YouTubers say for granted and what everyone says for granted, especially online. Just take it with a pinch of salt, because I could lie all about all of the stuff that I'm talking about. So you don't have to listen to me. Really, think for yourself. Because as we said, we could argue for the other side also. Well, how do you find the good books? And you see, skimming through a bunch of books, you could take away the main ideas of that book. And also for some people that might work better. You see, you don't have to listen to what I'm saying. I'm just talking about the stuff that has worked for me. The point is, I think, to not eagerly want to get something out of that book, out of this trying to inflate your ego, but to actually follow your curiosity and read books that you're interested in. Because I think that's the way to read. That's the best way to read, really. Because we have this idea that we do things because it's good for us. You see, we don't do them because we enjoy it. We do it because it's good for us. You see, another guy goes to play because it's good for him, but it's not playing. We do the same things with reading. We read because it's good for us, because you see, deepening our knowledge, and of course that's good. But at that point, it loses its essence, or how can I say it? You're not really reading to read. You're reading to get something in the future. You're not reading to just be here right now and to just read and to enjoy it. To read just to read, but you got your eye on the future, which never comes. You're reading to get that golden goodie, which never comes. This is the topic of the next video that I'm making. So getting back to the topic, I think it's great to follow your curiosity. Now you see, another crucial mistake that I made, that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, was that I sticked to one book until I finished that. And I wouldn't read any other books while I was doing that. This is a stupid mistake. See, if you don't enjoy a book, if you don't like it, just stop reading. If you don't enjoy a chapter in a book, skip it. If you don't enjoy like the first 30 pages, skip that book. You see, there are so many books out there, and you don't even have time to read 1% of them. So if you don't like it, drop it. It's that simple, because what I used to do is I would just get a book and just read it page after page after page, and I would only get to another book once I read that, or maybe maximum I read 2 books at a time, which was stupid, because you see, it got boring. It was like, reading and this boring chapter came around, and it was like, I gotta get through this boring chapter and all of that. It became this burdensome task, something that I just got to get through. It was becoming boring. It was killing the curiosity out of me. So this is probably one of the most important lessons that I want to share with you. That if you don't like the book that you're reading, then just skip it. Just drop it. If you're bored of it, you don't have to read it through. You see, the way I do it right now is I just follow my curiosity. Like at any time, I have at least like 7 books open. Like in 7 books I have bookmarks in them. You see, this is where I left off. I go off of my bookshelf and I just think to myself, what do I want to read about? What am I interested in right now? And I just pick up a book and read about that. Get to a chapter that I'm interested in and read that. Sometimes I just skip chapters that I'm not interested in and all of that. Following your curiosity. That's the point, really, I think, when it comes to reading. Reading like this, you see, has worked great for me. So that was basically the video. What did we talk about? Follow your curiosity. If you don't like a book, just drop it, read something else. You can have 20 books open at one time. It doesn't matter at all. And what was the other thing that we mentioned in the beginning? Yes, that reading out of ego, quality over quantity or quantity over quality, whichever works better for you. I like reading books that are great deeply instead of reading a bunch of books. So that was basically it. If I missed something, you can tell me in the comments, and if you're interested, I do free one-on-one calls. You can send me an email, we'll contact each other, and we'll arrange a video call, and you can ask me anything. We can just chat, you see. So thank you for being here. And by the way, you can send me an email in the description. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Very excited to read your comments and answer your questions, and maybe ask you even some questions. You can share your ideas also in the comments. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and goodbye.